Do what thou wilt should be the whole of the law. My first channel, Nexus Undos, is a music channel. Its focus was, and still is, obscure musics that I enjoy. When I decided to create informative videos, I found they were quickly lost in music. Thus, I split off a secondary channel, sometimes called Frater OX Speaks, and sometimes called The Voice of the Vision. I'm settling on the second title for most cases. The remaining question was what to do with the non-music videos lost in the sea of music videos. Looking them over, I felt there were several that contain material that is significant. I will not be porting all of my older videos. Specifically, I will be ignoring the more topical socio-political commentary. I have channels on YouTube, BitChute, and Library, or LBRY. Hopefully you will enjoy these videos. If you would like to request a topic, leave a comment below. Please share, like, and subscribe. Truth is found in the rubble of falsehood. Love is the law, love under will. Thelema is a spiritual philosophy, more akin to Nikaya Buddhism than Christianity. This means it can be applied to theological positions ranging from atheist to superstitious. It should be noted that Crowley warned against dogmatically adhering to either extreme. Neither is a truly skeptical position, as neither can be confirmed. The AA is a spiritual order of Thelema. One could think of it as a monastic hermetic order. Its motto is, "We place no reliance on virgin or pigeon. Our method is science. Our aim is religion." This was written by Aleister Crowley as the motto for the AA in 1907. The occult and spiritual practices of Thelema are meant to be subjected to the scientific method. Now, this was the early 20th century, so there may be some minor differences. Logical irrelevance may not have been migrated into the method of science as falsifiability in a time for it to be incorporated into Crowley's conception. I'd also like to note there are several philosophers in the AA reading list. Among them is David Hume. Hume was a Scottish philosopher known for his philosophical empiricism, skepticism, and naturalism. He also contributed to the scientific method. Finally, Thelema has several works which encourage skepticism, so I will finish with some works from the Thelemic canon, primarily the Book of Lies and Liber O. The method of science is not set in stone. It is a constantly evolving process. Evidence of the scientific method, as we understand the term, can be found in the ancient Egyptians around 1600 BCE. Then we move through the Greek philosophers, Aristotle, Plato, through theologians such as Roger Bacon to the Renaissance. Skepticism was emphasized. Francis Bacon, Descartes, Hume, Galileo. You can thank Francis Bacon for those lists you had to drop in science class of properties and observations. Finally, we get to the alchemist Isaac Newton, and I should note that Hume's extreme skepticism lost out to Neo-Kantianism, which is a topic of great depth and I will not really get into in this video. The concept of falsifiability was introduced around 1934. This seems to be an extension of the logical concept of irrelevance. Logically, any statement that cannot be demonstrated as false is irrelevant in the sense of logic. Examples include, God exists, all is Buddha nature, or logic is the best system. Note that this is not a value judgment, merely a comment on its provability. It is unlikely that this was in Crowley's conception of the method of science. I'd like to draw attention to Newton's contribution. This would have been in Crowley's conception. 1. We are to admit no more causes of natural things than such as are both true and sufficient to explain their appearances. 2. Therefore, to the same natural effects we must, as far as possible, assign the same causes. The qualities of bodies, this is 3, which admit neither intention nor emission of degrees, and which are found to belong to all bodies within the reach of our experiments, are to be esteemed the universal qualities of all bodies whatsoever. 4. In experimental philosophy, we are to look upon propositions collected by general induction from phenomena as accurately or very nearly true, notwithstanding any contrary hypothesis that may be imagined, until such time as other phenomena occur by which they may either be made more accurate or liable to exceptions. He also has an addendum. To explain all nature is too difficult a task for any one man or even for any one age. 'Tis much better to do a little with certainty, and leave the rest for others that come after you, than to explain all things. So, what is the current method of science? Define a question. Gather information and resources, also known as observe. Form an explanatory hypothesis, and this would include the null hypothesis and falsifiability. 4 is to test the hypothesis by performing an experiment and collecting data in a reproducible manner. 5 is to analyze the data. 6 is to interpret the data and draw conclusions that serve as a starting point for a new hypothesis. 7 is to publish results, and 8 is to retest, which is frequently done by other scientists. Number 6, which is interpret the data, will often jump back to 3, which was form an explanatory hypothesis, until the scientist is satisfied with his results. Now it should be noted that not all of these steps are utilized every time, neither are they always used in this order. Scientists, like other philosophers, tend to be a contentious lot. Anyone who prioritizes science over philosophy is an idiot and ignorant of history. That was a gratuitous jab at Tyson. Is he still relevant? Given that the occult is often dealing with observable phenomenon derived from unobservable phenomena, the Thelemite must beware of violating Newton's first and second principles. That would be to admit no more causes of natural things than that is sufficient, and to ascribe as much as possible similar results to similar effects. Now, Crowley talks about this in his Dangers of Mysticism, which is linked below. However, inasmuch as possible, the Thelemite and occultist must apply to his own workings the method of science. He must also avoid the problems rife in the scientific community, especially in the social sciences, of falsifying data. Now, David Hume was, among other things, a Scottish philosopher from the 18th century. He was highly skeptical, perhaps to an unworkable degree. He was also a committed atheist, and from my readings, my key takeaway so far would be that humans, while we are capable of reason, it is a mistake to categorize people as rational. We use our reason to justify our motive responses. That is, we use our reason to provide a justification for feeling what we feel. Now, a rational being is one who, when faced with contradictory facts, can actually change their feelings. This last item is my inference. Hume was far more pessimistic. Hume's essays are, as I mentioned, on the AA's reading list. By taking this into account, we really can gain a greater understanding of people's behavior. Haidt refers to Hume's descriptions as riding an elephant. The elephant is our feelings. The rider is the reason. When we don't realize we are riding an elephant, it is hard to control. The first step to understanding and thus becoming a rational or more rational being is to realize we are on an elephant. Then we can direct the elephant. And we should never forget that the elephant is the bigger and stronger partner, and when it rampages, there is little the shrieking rider can do to stop it. Haidt is important due to his studies in morality and the divide between American liberals and conservatives. His work is also useful for understanding modern socio-political behaviors, both in real life and online. I plan on picking up his book, The Righteous Mind, soon. I've read many of his studies, but I'd like to see where he takes it. So, back to Thelema, or more accurately, Crowley. In one of his works on practical instruction, Libro vel manes et sagittae sub figura 6, in part 1, Crowley writes, 1. This book is very easy to misunderstand. Readers are asked to use the most minute critical care in the study of it, even as we have done in its preparation. 2. In this book it is spoken of the Sephiroth and the paths, of spirits and conjurations, of gods, spheres, planes, and many other things which may or may not exist. It is immaterial whether they exist or not. By doing certain things, certain results will follow. Students are most earnestly warned against attributing objective reality or philosophical validity to any of them. 3. The advantages to be gained from them are chiefly these. A widening of the horizons of the mind. B. An improvement of the control of the mind. Part 4. The student, if he attains any success in the following practices, will find himself confronted by things, ideas, or beings too glorious or too dreadful to be described. It is essential that he remain the master of all that he beholds, hears, or conceives. Otherwise he will be the slave of illusion and the prey of madness. Before entering upon any of these practices, the student should be in good health and have attained a fair mastery of asana, pranayama, and dharana. Those are yogic terms, by the way. 5. There is little danger that any student, however idle or stupid, will fail to get some result. But there is great danger that he will be led astray, obsessed, and overwhelmed by his results, even though it be by those which it is necessary that he should attain. Too often, moreover, he mistaketh the first resting place for the goal, and taketh off his armor, as if he were a victor ere the fight is well begun. It is desirable that the student should never attach to any result the importance which it first seems to possess. I want to draw particular attention to the second point. Despite the facts that occultists regularly work with gods, angels, demons, spirits, despite the fact that we use models and maps of the heavens and spiritual realms, we are enjoined to remain skeptical. The map is not the territory. The validity of things are found in their utility. Now, in the Book of Lies, also known as Liber 333, there are two items I'd like to draw attention to. The first is Chinese music, chapter 45, which goes, "Explain this happening." And there are two responses. It must have a natural cause, it must have a supernatural cause. Let these two asses be set to grind corn. May, might, must, should, probably, may be, we may safely assume, ought, it is hardly questionable, almost certainly. Poor hacks, let them be turned out to grass. Proof is only possible in mathematics, and mathematics is only a matter of arbitrary conventions. And yet doubt is a good servant, but a bad master, a perfect mistress, but a nagging wife. White as white is the lash of the overseer. White as black is the watchword of the slave. The master takes no heed. The Chinese cannot help thinking that the octave has 5 notes. The more necessary anything appears to my mind, the more certain it is that I only assert a limitation. I slept with faith, and found a corpse in my arms on the awakening. I drank and danced all night with doubt, and found her a virgin in the morning. Now, the last line, "I slept with faith," is one of the more commonly used quotes from Crowley. And his commentary for the whole poem, verse, whatever you want to call it, chapter, says, "The attitude recommended is skepticism, but a skepticism under control. Doubt inhibits action as much as faith blinds it. All the best popes have been atheists, but perhaps the greatest of them once remarked, Quantum nobis prodest haec fabula Christi, which is translated to how much profit the story of Christ, which is attributed to Pope Leo X. Crowley goes on to say, "The ruler asserts facts as they are. The slave has therefore no option but to deny them passionately, in order to express his discontent. Hence such absurdities as liberté, égalité, fraternité, in God we trust, and the like. Similarly, we find people asserting today that women are superior to men, and that all men are born equal." Next, I'd like to read to you Terrier Work, chapter 51. Simply, doubt. Doubt thyself. Doubt even if thou doubtest thyself. Doubt all. Doubt even if thou doubtest all. It seems sometimes as if beneath all conscious doubt there lay some deepest certainty. Oh, kill it! Slay the snake. The horn of the doubt goat be exalted. Dive deeper, ever deeper into the abyss of mind, until thou unearth that fox, that, O hounds, yoicks, tally-ho, bring that to bay. Then wind the mort. Now the commentary is primarily technical since the text is pretty clear. So we here have two works that pretty succinctly sum up Crowley's opinion on skepticism and doubt in the magical workings. There are other examples in his work, and I highly recommend that you seek them out. So, to recap, the basic instructions for Thelema encourage both skepticism and critical analysis. This can be seen by the doctrinal requirements of adherence to the method of science and recommendations of skeptical philosophers. I cannot recommend enough that any aspirant to occult knowledge, let alone Thelema, read The Dangers of Mysticism. Modern spirituality, religion, and the New Age movement have fallen into the trap Crowley warns against. Truth is found in the rubble of falsehood. Love is the law. Love under will.